I have a feeling that today's episode could possibly make a few people angry, so I'm going to go into this asking for a favor. Keep an open mind. I'm going to be discussing two topics and giving two unconventional solutions. Not only that, those solutions go against everything we've ever been told. Basically, I feel like we've been lied to our entire lives. And although it may end up being labeled controversial, I still feel like it's important to share this information. It could change everything for you or maybe someone you love. Welcome to episode 6 of Tea with Christie. I've pulled out my Big Bertha mug, which has a double helping of tea in it. The brand is Red Rose and the flavor lemon cake. I also have two backup drinks on hand. One is an ice water and the other a Lonnie Nude cherry slush. I started this series because I had noticed during my What I Ate in a Day videos, the sippin' chats were getting extremely long. And that's basically exactly what this is. It gives us a chance to talk about all those important topics: keto, weight loss, low carb, gastric bypass, diabetes, type 1 and 2, ADHD, new research and studies related to those topics. I am not giving any type of medical advice because I'm not a doctor. And while I feel like it is important that you talk to your healthcare team before you make any significant lifestyle change, I also feel as though it's more important that you do your own research. Lots and lots and lots of it, because we have to be advocates for our own health. Did not mean for that intro to be so long, but it is what it is. When I started today's episode, initially this segment wasn't even included. Spoiler, the second half is about weight loss and the fact that everything we've ever been told or taught is false. While the first half and the second half aren't directly related, they are indirectly related, and I couldn't have got to one without the other. First up on the agenda today, I want to talk about the video that changed my life. Yes, I know that sounds like I'm being dramatic, but truthfully, it had such an impact on me. I feel like it changed the course of where I was headed. It was something that helped me tremendously at a time in my life when I needed it the most. If it was able to do that for me, this might be that moment for one of you. Quick story time, because I feel like you need some background information so that it puts this into the proper context. I had gastric bypass in 2006, multiple complications and health issues because of it, which still persists today. Been over a decade-long battle with alcoholism that I was finally able to overcome, and at this point I've been sober almost 7 years. I was naive in believing that nothing could be harder than what I'd already been through. October 2021, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. That in itself didn't flip my world upside down. It was a punch in the gut, but I figured I could do it, and everything was going pretty smoothly until it wasn't. And then I feel like it all just hit the fan. From October until January, I started having so many health issues that were unexplained. Plus, I couldn't control my blood sugar highs and lows. It was affecting me mentally, as in I couldn't process a thought. I couldn't remember things. I was scared. In the blink of an eye, my life had done a complete 180. I went from being healthy and active to depressed. I couldn't get out of bed due to fatigue. I couldn't remember why I'd even walked into a room. A simple task that used to take me minutes would now take me days to complete. I tried to share some of my experience and what was going on here, but I don't think it fully came through. It's hard to convey just how miserable I truly was. There wasn't a single day for over a year that didn't involve me having some kind of outburst. Whether I'm in the corner rocking back and forth, sobbing, or so frustrated that I was screaming at the top of my lungs that I just want my life back. every single day was a little harder than the one before it. I was starting to crack and have some pretty dark thoughts. Then one day I pull up YouTube to upload one of my videos. I don't know if it was the algorithm, coincidence, or maybe the universe giving me exactly what I needed at that precise moment, but I had a video pop up in my suggestion feed, a channel I had never watched before and didn't even know existed, nor had I even searched this kind of content. I remember reading the thumbnail and title over and over again. The happiness expert that has made over 51 million people happier. The expert was Gawdat, and the channel, The Diary of a CEO. Thankfully, I decided to click on the video because, in all honesty, I don't know where I would be right now if I hadn't. Mo is not only a genius, but he's extremely articulate and down to earth and explains everything perfectly. In the beginning, he starts out giving some background information and what made him pursue this as his life's mission, or might I say, one of his missions. It is a very sad story, and I remember thinking, if he got through that, surely there's still hope for me in my situation. Early on in the video, he defines happiness. I never thought of it as something definable. I always thought of it as just a feeling or an event. Mo defines happiness as that peacefulness, that calm feeling you have when you're okay with life as it is. It doesn't really matter what life is or what life's handing you at the moment. What matters is that you can be okay with it. It's more about your perception. So not only does he define happiness, he takes it one step further with the happiness equation. And this is a direct quote. Happiness is equal to or greater than the events of your life minus your expectations of how life should be. Remember earlier when I asked you to keep an open mind? This is one of those moments. Mo Gawdat firmly believes that happiness is a choice. He goes on to explain that the majority of us don't want to hear that. We like to be able to designate blame, and it's easier to say, it's not me, it's life. It's treating me badly. It's not fair. That's the point in the video where I thought to myself, wow, this sounds familiar. That's because it's what I had been doing for the past year. My brain kept repeating multiple times throughout the day, why me? I want my old life back. Life's not fair. Then Mo talks about how you have to choose to not be unhappy. You have to make this conscious decision and then work on it repeatedly. He says to tell yourself, it's going to be a long journey, it's going to be hard, but I'm going to keep trying and not give up, and I'll eventually get there. Everything Mo had discussed up until this point, I felt was useful and helpful information. But it was when he started talking about the 3 levels of happiness and radical acceptance that he spoke the words that changed my life. It was like someone had flipped a switch inside me. I was at a point where I was unable to be happy because I couldn't accept my situation, my diagnosis, that I had a list of health issues now and I was no longer the same person I was before. I have notes because I want to read for you word for word what was said that changed everything for me. Whatever you're having a hard time accepting, whatever that situation is, you have to tell yourself, it happened and there's nothing you can do to change it. Can I accept it and do something to make my life better despite its presence or maybe even because of its presence? Looking back on it now, those words were so simple and it was obvious. I was just stuck. I felt like a hamster on a wheel. Sure, some situations can be changed, but when you're talking about a diagnosis that has no cure or possibly even the loss of a loved one, there's nothing you can do to change that. Not only did I need to hear those words, I needed the tough love that was involved. And the people around me in my household, they weren't going to say that to me. So at that exact moment is when I accepted this is who I am now. And I started crawling out of that hole I was in mentally so that I could search for the help I needed and feel better physically. Not only that, I wanted to share as much as possible so that I could hopefully help somebody else. I had wasted a year repeating the negative thoughts in my head, and what I discovered was those thoughts, they didn't change the situation. The only thing that ended up changing in that time frame was who I had become. I was a miserable, hateful, depressed human being, not someone you would want to be around. Instead of repeating the negative thoughts in my head these days, I tell myself, yeah, I'm not the same person I used to be, but my life's not over. Who knows what the future holds? You never know. Maybe one of these days I'll get to meet Mo in person and thank him, because the information that he shared truly changed everything for me. I just hope that I'm able to pay it forward and make a difference. Please go watch the video. There's so much that I left out you may need to hear. It's in the description box. I'm excited to dive right on into the second half of today's video, which was initially what the entire episode was going to be about. But remember earlier when I mentioned that I felt the first half and the second half sort of went together in a weird Kevin Bacon 6 degrees of separation kind of thing. They're not directly related because it's not the same topic, but they're indirectly related. Well, let's put those pieces of the puzzle together. Both were brought to my attention because they were episodes on the YouTube channel, The Diary of a CEO. Which reminds me, if you've not went over there and checked out that YouTube channel, you might want to give it a chance. So when this video popped up, I didn't hesitate. I knew immediately that in the thumbnail was Dr. Jason Fung. The title of the video, Fasting Cures Obesity, Exercise Doesn't Make You Lose Weight, and this controversial new drug melts fat. I already knew that this interview was going to contain some excellent information, but I was shocked at how much I ended up learning. He talks about so much more than just the 3 things that were in the title. Dr. Fung is a nephrologist, which is a kidney specialist. He wrote a book. It's a must read. It's called The Obesity Code. I'll see if I can find it on Amazon and I'll link it in the description box in case you're interested. And on several occasions, I've heard him referred to as the founder of modern intermittent fasting for fat loss. I'm going to make the assumption that if you're watching my channel or you're one of my subscribers, that it's because we have the same interest: weight loss, low carb, keto. If that's the case, this is the video you have to watch. I guarantee that you will come away with some knowledge that you didn't have when you started the video. I'm pretty sure at this point I have watched the interview a dozen times. It's changed my approach when it comes to weight loss and me maintaining that. And one more time, I want to make it perfectly clear that I'm not a healthcare professional and I'm not giving medical advice. At the very beginning, I mentioned that today's topic could be a little controversial, maybe upset some people. What we're getting ready to talk about right now is what I was referring to. There's no way I'll be able to do this video justice, nor will I be able to go over everything that was discussed. But I feel compelled to go over some of the things that I wrote down, the most interesting, the shocking, the eye-opening aspects of the interview. Dr. Fung gives an analogy that puts everything into perspective. Let's say you have 100 kids in a classroom, and if one fails, it's easy to blame the student. They didn't do their work, they didn't pay attention. But if 70 students out of the classroom fail, it looks more like it's the teacher's fault instead of the children's. Now, consider this information. Around 70% of the population is overweight or obese. If healthcare professionals are giving us the correct information to succeed, why is there such a large percentage failing? Dr. Fung believes it's because the message is wrong. We're told it's calories in versus calories out. Basically, calorie restriction. Focusing on the calories is a simplistic approach. What we need to be focusing on is fixing the hormone. That specific hormone is insulin. He said studies have been done and they have known for over 80 years. Spiking insulin prevents you from burning fat. So now looking back, it makes perfect sense why keto and low carb has worked so well, or at least for me. And by doing intermittent fasting, you are controlling your blood sugar levels so you're not getting those spikes frequently. That could be as simple as skipping breakfast or having breakfast later in the day, or eating your dinner earlier than your typical time and then fasting until the next morning. This was one of my favorite parts, and it's also something I've been saying for years, but nobody ever wants to hear. Dr. Fung says 95% of weight loss is all about your diet. It's not about how much exercise you do. Yes, he does believe that exercise is great for our health, but when it comes to losing weight, it has minimal effect. Probably one of the biggest shocking revelations in this entire interview for me was about calorie restriction. If you go to your doctor, you tell them you want to lose weight, they'll say, cut your calories by 500. So let's say I'm consuming 2,000 calories a day. I cut that consumption down to 1,500. And in the beginning, I may lose some weight as long as there's not loads of insulin spikes. But what I didn't know, after a period of time doing the 1,500 calorie diet, our metabolism does a reset. Now let's say it's not working for you because you're tired, you're hungry, you're feeling the fatigue, and you want to go back up to 2,000 calories a day, where you initially started. But remember, our metabolism reset, and now it's used to 1,500 a day. What's going to happen is we end up gaining weight. Dr. Fung explains that calorie restrictive diets don't work because eating fewer calories leads to burning fewer calories. And that's why the majority of diets fail within the first year and people gain the weight back plus more. After putting that connection together, I had to physically pick my jaw up off the floor. He talks about something that I know you've been told before. Don't skip a meal or don't fast because your body's going to go into starvation mode. The theory behind that is that your metabolism drops so low because you've not ate anything that when you do finally eat, you're going to start to gain weight. He said that is nothing more than a myth. What happens when you intermittent fast is just the opposite. Your metabolism is going to go up. And there's been studies done on that to prove it. And we're not talking about any calorie restriction involved. You can still eat the same number of calories. You're just doing it in a shorter time frame. It's called an eating window. But what's happening is you're not having as many insulin spikes. And that insulin is the hormone that makes us hungry and causes us not to lose fat. The last thing I'm going to talk about, first of all, I'm ashamed and embarrassed by my lack of knowledge on this topic. We already know that all foods aren't created equal. Obviously, broccoli is better for us than a Snicker. Nothing wrong with a Snicker. It was one of my favorite candy bars. I was under the assumption that a carb is a carb is a carb. A protein is a protein is a protein. Not so. All carbs aren't created equal. The more processed that carb is, the bigger the insulin response you're going to have. For those that are trying to lose weight, you want to keep the insulin response to a minimum so that you're burning fat. And for anyone with diabetes, this is important because you have to know exactly how much insulin you need to inject so that your blood sugar doesn't go to dangerous levels. Why did my healthcare team, my endocrinologist, never tell me about this? Dr. Fung deserves the applause, the handshakes, the awards, the pats on the back, because this man did the hard work that no other physician was willing to do. The rest of the healthcare community sees that the obesity rates just keep growing, and all they keep saying is eat fewer calories, knowing that that's not working. So he dove deeper and looked for an answer. a way to help us overcome these struggles. He says if you're overweight or you're obese, it's not your failure to take on. It's not your fault. You've been given the wrong information, the incorrect tools that you need to succeed. So it's like we didn't stand a chance in the first place. I'm going to link both videos down in the description box for you, and I'll see if I can find the book on Amazon or any other platform and put it down there as well. It's called The Obesity Code, and I think he recently came out with another one. So if you have a loved one or yourself deals with PCOS, Dr. Fung, he's your man. I really hope that you take my advice and watch the videos, save them, and re-watch them anytime you need to. I would love it if you would come back and give me your thoughts in the comments. I hope that they help you or someone you love as much as they did me. I'm going to go, but before I do, if you've not subscribed, I'd love to have you over here as a part of my YouTube family. I hope you're having a great day, and in case nobody's told you today, everything's going to be okay. You've got this. I love you, and I'll see you next time. Bye.